Hey, what's going on? I'm Quis, and this is the Knicks Report, joined as always by my co-host JD. JD, man, how's everything with you?
Everything's good. We have some interesting topics to talk about today.
Yep, we got a few trade targets we want to talk to, and we even have a little special segment at the end of the show that you guys should stay tuned and check out. Now, the first trade target I want to get into is Lonzo Ball. Now, JD, a few months ago, I made a video about a potential Lonzo Ball acquisition, and when I shot that video, at that moment, Lonzo and Alfred Payton had roughly the same 3-point percentage, which was like 29%. Now, this is 3 months ago. If you look now, Alfred Payton has dropped down to 25% from three, and you got Lonzo shooting right around the 38% clip. So, my question is, should Lonzo be a point guard that the Knicks are trying to target right now via trade? Because if you look at it, Lonzo is an expiring deal, and although he's an expiring deal, he's still going to be a restricted free agent. So whoever has his services, whoever requires him, still has the ability to match. So what would you think that fit with the Knicks would look like? And is it someplace or an avenue the Knicks should explore?
I think the Knicks should definitely seriously consider adding Lonzo Ball. Now, the question will be, do they do it via trade or do they wait for free agency and attempt to sign him to an offer sheet? He would be a restricted free agent. And so we would have to sign him to an offer sheet and hope that the Pelicans do not match. And so the fit to me, I actually think it's a very good fit because a lot of his strengths are what the Knicks team is looking for. He is shooting a lot better from the field. He's actually, which is strange because I think he's working on consistency, but he's actually shooting the ball a lot better. In December, he shot the ball at, like you mentioned, 28% from three. In January, he ticked up to 33%. And this month in February, he's shooting 47% from the three-point strike. And he is on pace to actually have an increase in three-point shooting percentage in each of his first four seasons. So I think what he needs to work on and what's been the talk is the consistency factor of his shooting. But I think he's going to be a great fit for this team. What do you think about the fit?
Well, before I get into the fit, just a little fun fact. JD, you said he's shooting what percentage from in February from three?
47%.
Well, in his last 12 games, right, there's only six other people who've taken the same amount of threes that he's taken. And only one person has shot at a higher clip than him. Can you guess who that person is?
Steph Curry.
None other than Steph Curry. And what is Steph Curry shooting? What percentage is he shooting?
I don't know.
47.3. So the only person shooting
Wow.
a higher clip than Lonzo right now in the last 12 games is Steph Curry. And he has to shoot 47.3% to do it. Because in the last 12 games, Lonzo has shot 46%.
He's had a great February. He's so far, in 11 games, it's a sample size. He's averaging almost 17 points per game, a steal, 5 assists, almost 5 rebounds, 83% from the free throw line. So a lot of his shooting has increased. And he's only 23 years old. We criticize his shooting a lot, but he is increasing. He's getting better. And he's only 23. He's 6'6". He's playing great defense. I mean, when you look at what we need, Lonzo might be that guy. It's just about how can we get him?
And just to get into that question you asked me about fit, I think Lonzo would fit with this team perfectly because if he's playing with the starters, Lonzo can be the passive point guard he can be at times, and he can allow the offense to kind of run through and flow through Randall and then allow Randall to get him open looks in some catch and shoot situations, something that Lonzo is excelling this year. And with that first unit, he'd be a perfect fit because he can also work with RJ and kind of get out in transition. And then with the second unit, I think he would work well, as he overlaps his minute between the first and the second unit, like we've seen with Peyton. I think he would work well with IQ, or he could even work well with Rose and play off ball and still try to catch and shoot because we're seeing that he's a much better, a much improved shooter because the improvement in shooting is not just this season. Last season he shot 30, what was it, 0.375% from three. So this we are seeing continuous Lonzo has gotten better year after year from three. And with the way he's been shooting in this recent stretch, I can only imagine that he's going to continue with this hot hand. And if the Knicks can add him to our team, it helps us in two ways. It adds additional shooting, well, three ways. It also increases the way we play in terms of pace, because right now the team is dead last, even though that's what Thibodeau wants. But I still think with the actual players we have on this roster, playing with some increased pace is going to help us. And I think that with Lonzo, we also have another playmaker that can help unlock some of these other younger players that are kind of not being a focal point of the offense under Tibbs.
Yeah, and in turn, you made some great points. He was shooting well at UCLA. He came into the league his first two seasons. He shot 30% from three and 32% from three. So I think what it is he goes through these stretches where he just shoots awful, and it just discombobulates the numbers. But then he ends the season, he's on pace to have his fourth, increase to start his career. So I mean, I think just for this team, he gets what this team needs, right? He passes the ball. You have RJ, you have Julius Randle, you have Quickly, you have Rose, and you have Obi. Obi right now is a big investment to this team, and we're talking about being concerned with Obi because he needs a player that can activate him. Well, Lonzo Ball can be an asset to Obi's game, and so he can just come here. All we would ask him to do is continue to play great defense, shoot the three ball well, and continue to be a playmaker for this team, and hopefully play well with Obi. And so, if this team it's just about what's the better avenue. Do we go for it and trade assets from now, or do we sign him as a free agent and keep our assets, keep our draft picks, continue to build through the draft, and just give him, pay him some money in this upcoming free agency?
I feel like I've been dancing around that question because I don't feel like I really answered how we should acquire him. So let me get into that now.
Yeah,
My preference would be just to sign him outright, and the only cost would be cap space. But if you can say we can acquire him with a move that doesn't deplete our roster, doesn't deplete our bench, like a trade for Bill would, because we had a previous video where we were talking about Bradley Bill, and I was saying it may cost too much, and I likened it to C.J. McCollum, and the same thing I would say with Lonzo. It may be a cheaper deal, and it may be a deal that will help us both in the near term and also long term. Because if you look at Lonzo, he's still, like you said, a young player that's getting better year after year. And I
he's
don't,
only
he's
23.
only 23, and he falls right in line with the rest of our young core: Obi, IQ, RJ, Mitch, all of them. And even if you want to go into the doldrums of the G League, you got Iggy, you got Powell, you got all them boys down there too, because they're balling down there too. So let's not act like the Knicks don't have some young talent. So if we can bring in Alonzo Ball and have him be, the orchestrator of the offense, then I think this team can be very exciting for years to come, and we can still maintain our flexibility when it comes to salary cap and when it also comes to draft picks. But if we have to trade, I would be okay with a trade, but it is a trade that cannot go deep into the stash of draft picks we have, and it can't be a trade that's going to gut the roster.
Because that's probably what it's gonna take. It's probably gonna take a first round pick at least,
I'll take
because
one first.
the Pelicans have a few point guards. They have Kyrie Lewis, so
Mm-hmm.
they would be pivoting to probably give him some minutes, and then in return, David Griffin's gonna want some draft
Yeah,
capital. So
David Griffin is a swindler.
yeah, he tries to swindle,
Mm-hmm.
but
Him and Presty,
think,
stay away
things
from
ain't
them.
going too things ain't going too well out there right now. So he should be worried about keeping Zion in a few years. That's what he should be concerned about.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. But to bring up another potential trade target, I know we kind of are on the same page when it comes to Lonzo, but where do you fall when it comes to Zach Lavine?
Man, have you seen the way he's playing the last 10, 9 games? shooting. Listen, man. I feel like with these players, Bradley Beal, Zach, and all these guys, we're changing week to week based on how they've played in their recent games. But it's a tough decision. It continues the theme of this is a tough decision. And it's most with Zach Lavine is specifically because he's 25. He's going to be 26 next month. On March 10th, he's going to be 26 years old. And so, he is. I mean, I know you may have some different thoughts, but I actually think he is. He may be starting to change that thinking of, those doubts that, is he a stat guy? Is his stats actually impacting the game, the team? Because the Bulls are now in playoff contention as we speak. And if you ask me, the way he's playing now, it's only does this have the Knicks with a sense of urgency to make a move, or does this take us out of the running? Because you would think that his value is only increasing. And so, I don't know what are your thoughts on Zach Lavine and him being a potential trade target, being on how he's currently playing, which he is destroying the league right now.
Yeah, I can't argue against Zach Levine's production. He's definitely been on a hot streak recently. And that's another reason why it's just gonna push him out of the Knicks' price range. I'm still not willing to give up so much for Zach Levine that up until now I haven't seen him taking his teams anywhere. Honestly, he didn't do much in Minnesota. He has failed to do much in Chicago. You can argue that it could be because he had bad coaching. Because when you look at that team,
You think so?
what
That he's not the your impact statement that
has he
he
really been impacting to in wins? When was the last time the
I
Bull? When was
think
the last time Zach Levine was in the playoffs?
yeah, but how about Julius Randle? We
I
have
say the
Julius
same thing
Randle,
about Julius Randle. Like I'm consistent.
but
I've said
yeah,
the same thing about Levine and the same thing about Julius Randle. The same reason I would want to trade Julius Randle if I got the right offer is the same reason I would not want to acquire Zach Levine. Neither one of those players have showed me anything when it comes to carrying their team into the playoffs or deep into the playoffs. Julius Randle
but
has the ability to change my mind this season. Same thing with Levine, but until then, I'm not going to offer these dramatic trade packages to pair two players that I have yet to see carry a team and will a team to success either throughout the regular season or in the postseason. So I don't know if I
but
pair them two, we're gonna really have a great team to compete for a championship.
but you see, look, you see, I'm looking at it a little differently because we talk about Julius Randle, us Knicks fans, we're praising him this year, right? We want him, he's looking to be an all-star, right? And it's off that improvement that he's had where he's had similar stats before, not only here, but in his previous team, right? And the question with him was the impact. And this year he's having impact, and yet the Knicks, as we speak right now, have 15 wins and the Bulls have 14 wins. And yet we're talking about Julius Randle being an all-star. How come Zach Levine can't get that same credit? Last year the Knicks won 21 games. Last year, the Bulls won, what I have here, 22 games. So they are on the same trajectory, if you ask me. Last year, similar wins. This year, right now, they have similar wins. They both are putting great numbers. They both are going to be the same age. So it would seem to me that they could, potentially be teammates and grow together because they are having a similar trajectory in their careers. So that's how I'm looking at it, and that's why it's intriguing to me that we should definitely consider a trade for Zach Levine because you're having two players that are ascending and that are starting to figure it out in this league. And if you pair them together, then what could that result be? It may add to us, continuing to build and grow and becoming contenders, especially in this Eastern Conference that is pretty weak to me, if you ask me.
Well, just to counter your point about how the teams performed differently last year to this year, if I'm not mistaken, the Chicago Bulls went under the same a similar coaching change, right? They changed their coach at the end of last season, same way we did. So we could attribute a lot of that success to coaching, and like I said when I started the point, we could attribute some of the lack of success to his stints in many and his stints in Chicago to him not winning. But he was in Minnesota with Tibbs. So are we going to see a big difference if we then go trade and acquire Lavine, bring him over and pair him with Julius Randle? Are we really going to see that big of a step up, especially if we're going to have to gut the team in order to do so? And not only do we have to gut the team to bring him in, we are not going to have enough picks or assets to try to fill around. And now you're going to look at paying Zach Lavine 30 to 35% of your cap. You're going to be looking at paying Julius Randle 30 to 35% of your cap. So my question is to you, are you able to field a legit championship contending team with only 30% of your cap available, and you're looking across the street and you're seeing what the Nets are putting up over in Brooklyn? And if you're going to be battling for free agents, it still, to me, is a much greener pasture over there with the Nets having to just play maybe 10, 12 minutes a game and not expect to do much, because you can rely on the talents of a Kevin Durant, of a Kyrie Irving, and of a James Harden. I just don't think the Knicks are there yet to really make that move. The Nets were able to make that move because they had the young talent and they were able to sign the two all-stars or the two superstars. We have neither the two superstars or the mature or the chat or the talent that we've cultivated to make sure that it's appealing to other teams around the league. We are still missing those two things with this team. So until then, I think we should stay pat and kind of stay the course and work with what we got and continue to develop and build.
I mean, I think we both share the same idea that I don't think you would be opposed to it for the right price. And so it's all going to depend on what we have to give up. Are we gutting the team? Are we gutting our draft capital? And that's why I said, does this take us out of the running because he's playing so well that, the consensus is around the league that Zach Lavine will come a little bit cheaper than Bradley Beal. Well, does now Zach Lavine go into Bradley Beal territory
Yep.
in terms of, a return? And so that's the tricky part. But, if I had to stomach a move, I would be okay with it being Zach Lavine again, because I would be just counting on the age factor, and it's not a player at the end of his prime. And we have Julius Randle, who's also his age, and they can build together. And hopefully, around the league, regardless, when you have 2 or 3 stars, they're going to take most of the cap anyways, and you just have to figure out who the role players are. To me, it's easier to look for the role players, right? Because every year you have a buyout market. Every year, veterans become available. Every year, someone gets bought out. We're seeing it now, potentially with a few players, JaVale McGee, Andre Drummond, etc. So, again, I am on the belief that it depends on the price. But if I had to stomach it, out of all the players that are on the rumor mill for the Knicks right now, in terms of Bradley Beal and Zach Lavine, I would say I would favor Zach Lavine.
And just to your point, when it comes to the buyout market, if you look at the landscape right now, there are probably 3 definite locations that would be better destinations for players on the buyout market. And that would be the Nets, like I said earlier, the Lakers, and the Clippers. So if we make a move for a Zach Lavine, bring him in with Julius Randle, we're then going to have the 4th best destination for a buyout market. And
you don't know that.
You
don't know that.
I'm giving you my opinion. This is why I wouldn't want to do the deal. I can't speak for the free agents, but when I look at it, I see the
I wouldn't
Nets,
be so sure though.
I see the Nets as
you
a
look
better
at this
location.
market.
I see the Lakers as a better location. I see the Clippers as a better location and more serious championship contenders. So if we're
Those guys are getting older, Keys.
they're getting older, but we still are in this season, and we still have to make do with what we can for this season, and we have to build moving forward. So those are 3 better locations, and I don't know if I want to sit here and bring in the 4th best option on the buyout market and think we're going to compete for championships. I'm still skeptical when it comes to that.
See what happens.
And this is why you guys watch the Knicks report. You see, me, JD, we don't always agree, but we make sure we bring the good points to you and allow you to make your own decision and say which side of the fence you are on. So, JD, we teased a special segment earlier. You want to lead into it, or you want me to lead into it?
Uh, I'm not a big fan of this player, so you can lead into it.
Well, there's some rumblings that a former Nick by the name of Kristaps Porzingis could be on the move, and as
The
a
unicorn.
the unicorn, and he could be on the move. And this is probably shocking to Knicks fans because I personally thought he was a match made in heaven over there with Luca. Didn't they both play a little bit of time together over in Europe? If I'm not mistaken,
Well,
you guys can fact check me and let me know down in the comments. But I think they spent some time either in the same league or on the same team. So to hear that they are quietly shopping KP around, to me is just like, wow. I was not expecting to see that.
well. Where have Knicks fans seen something like this before? um, Listen, that's their problem. That's their problem to deal with at this point. And I mean, I think if we go into it, it seems to. I mean, we don't know what's happening, in house. Could this be some of the similar issues that the Knicks dealt with in terms of his brother, in terms of, him being a diva? Those were some of the words that were thrown out there, a drama person, et cetera, et cetera. Or is this more of his injuries are starting to pick up? The Mavericks are now becoming concerned. And also, their biggest investment and biggest priority in their franchise is Luka Doncic. And so, they are not having a great start to the season. The Knicks have the pick of this year, and Mark Cuban may be acting smartly in trying to act quickly, and trying to act fast in anticipating what could happen in the future. Luka Doncic does not look happy this year. He was thought out to be the MVP early favorite, and so this is not surprising to me. But I mean, this only asks the question if we won the trade. What do you think?
Well, when you're trading a disgruntled player like Kristaps was when he was here, I think to be able to get two first round picks, and I mean DSJ didn't amount to anything, and Jordan didn't amount to anything. But if you see what the Mavs have been able to get out of KP in this short stint, I gotta say that the Knicks up till now are on the better end of this trade, especially since you're hearing that the Mavs may not even want to keep KP. Because that's crazy to me. You give up, you sacrifice two first round picks, or I think if I'm not mistaken, it's two first round picks. You give up that much in draft capital in order to bring in a player that you think is going to be the number two behind Luca, and now he hasn't even been able to play as much because he's been injury prone. So now you're looking to flip him, move him elsewhere, and what are you going to do with your star player if you're now taking his number two away from him? What are you going to bring in? What kind of value is KP now going to have? This is going to be the second team that's going to want to move on from him. I mean, I don't know. I want to hear more from this story to see what kind of causes this. I mean, if you look at the article said it was some issues with defense, but I'm like, you don't give this guy a max contract and then wake up one day and say, hey, you know what? He doesn't play defense. We gotta get rid of him. You knew what was on film before you received him, or did you go to the Knicks and make a trade not knowing what you will be getting in return? Because so to me, I don't know what's going on. This is just a weird situation.
And I mean, we'll see who wins the trade in the end. I think because this involves draft capital, first round picks. It doesn't. If the Knicks trade these picks for a player, even if with the player they get in return, it's still going to amount to who those draft picks become. Whether it's with us that we draft them, or whether it's via trade, we trade the picks to another player. They're going to track who those picks become, and then so I think it's we're going to have to wait still a few more years because of the draft picks in terms of before we really announce who won this trade. And I think because Dennis Smith has not been the player at all, he was a total failure for the Knicks.
We got Rose for him.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at it that way. A lot of Knicks fans say, well, we replaced KP with Julius Randle because of the cap space. So, but in terms of the actual return, Dennis Smith is an X, didn't work out. And then now we're clinging to the draft picks to see what happens. And do the Knicks fans also consider a win that he is looking like he is not panning out to what the Mavericks thought they were getting? And, when we traded him, we were actually concerned that this guy may one day be an MVP candidate and a top 5 player in the league. And so now, because of the injuries, things are trending the other way. So
can't stay on the court.
We'll see what happens. Let us know, fans. Let us know what you think.
You already know what they say. The best ability is availability. And as far as I know, them first round picks are still available either to use or for a trade.
And he's definitely not.
Right? He is something else.
He's definitely not available.
God bless him.
Now.
He used to live down the block from one of our offices.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Remember he took a picture on IG in front of the Ritz-Carlton in White Plains. I think he was on top of his Benz. That was like one of the first pictures I think he took. Maybe was it? He had Tim's on and all that. I'm like, oh yeah, he got acclimated to New York.
Swag.
Yeah. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Do you think the Knicks won this trade, or is the jury still out? I mean, KP is a player that we thought had a promising future, and it seems like the Dallas Mavericks may be thinking otherwise. So let us know down in the comments. So, JD, I'm going to wrap it up there. You think that is all you wanted to get off your chest when it comes to this KP situation?
Yeah. KP, it was nice having you. Good luck out there, man. I mean, I don't wish injury upon anyone, so I hope he gets healthy. And he's their problem now.
Yep. Best of luck to him. If you aren't subscribed to the channel yet, now would be a great time to do so. Make sure you hit that bell icon. That way you're notified whenever we drop a new video. We have the Knicks Report. We have KSOM, also known as Knicks State of Mind. That's the live show we drop. We also talk Knicks, Giants, Mets, New York sports is here for you, all right? So once again, I'm Quis, joined as usual by JD. This is the Knicks Report here on Sports Vibes TV, and we're out.